Okay. And Brittany, you're on my screen. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, talk about, why we invited you, and then we'll get started. Thank you.
Sounds good. Hello, my name is Brittany Cortinas, and I am the recruitment coordinator for the SALT Center at the University of Arizona. The University of Arizona was the first university in Arizona. Currently, we have 150 different majors, 500 different clubs. We've been involved in every NASA mission since NASA's inception. So the U of A has a lot for students to offer. And then the SALT Center specifically, we are academic support for students with learning differences. Our students are fully integrated into University of Arizona. They're Arizona students who happen to get assistance from us. And what we guarantee is personalized academic support while still getting that authentic college experience at the University of Arizona. So I will say I talk more about executive function support, tutoring, and social psych and wellness support for our students. I can talk about accommodations a little bit, but that actually goes through our Disability Resource Center. But yeah, that's myself.
Okay, Jordan.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Jordan Malmstrom with the University of Iowa. I work in the Office of Undergrad Admissions. So we deal with a variety of accommodations with students of just navigating them to funnel them out to the right representative. But with me, I'm the Northeast Regional Rep. I currently reside in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm originally from Nebraska. And, for us at the university, we are a Big Ten school, a lot of great Big Ten resources to help accommodate students from all over, whatever needs or challenges they may have. And for us, the type of resources that we have, I mean, we're an R1 school with resources, but we also, for us, we're one of the big schools, but also small schools type of feel. So with having 80% of our classroom sizes being 30 students or less, we still are able to kind of build that personal relationship no matter what on that accommodation. So with students too, we have first gen Hawks that help accommodate students on that end. But then there's a variety of different other resources with academic coaches. Our Student Disability Services does a great job of the process of navigating students through steps and helping accommodate them, and then the collaborative effort with the professors. So other than that, I know we'll dive into the questions, but I appreciate being here and I'll pass it back to you. So.
O- Okay, thank you. And I'll just say, is Lydia here from Beacon?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, excellent. Okay, can you introduce yourself too? Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Lydia Kritzman. I'm the director of admissions at Beacon College. Beacon College is a small private college, liberal arts focused in Central Florida. And we exclusively work with neurodiverse students. So students with ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and other learning and attention challenges. That's our entire student population. We are just over 500 students, which allows us to provide a lot of support in terms of students' academics and executive functioning needs that is really built into um, the experience as a student here, alongside providing traditional small college experiences.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to introduce Cheryl. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself
Okay.
and also introduce Lori, and then you can feed them the questions. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Cheryl Raskin, and I am one of the two co-chairs, along with Laura Wide Munoz. We are both the co-chairs of the Inclusive Committee at BCC, and we want to welcome everybody to our presentation tonight. A little bit of what we do is we are on the PTSA board at BCC, and we are the liaison between the parents and the school team. And then Laura can introduce
Yeah,
herself.
sure. Hi, I'm Laura White Munoz, and as one of the co-chairs of the Inclusive Ed Committee, our goal is really to advocate and, as Cheryl said, be a liaison with the school. One of the reasons we changed the name from special ed to inclusive ed is because we feel that is more inclusive and representative of the student population that we have here and of our goals. Whether you are applying to an Ivy or whether you're applying to a school that is solely focused on neurodivergent students, we hope this evening will be helpful for parents as they navigate and begin this process. And speaking after the school reps, we also have Lori Weiss here, who is an independent college counselor and focuses on learning learning different students with learning differences. And Lori, do you want to just briefly?
Yeah. Hi, thanks for having me tonight. And yeah, I work with high school students who are applying to college who need a special fit for their search. And so I'm happy to discuss what some of those differences are and what are the things that parents can look for when they are assisting their students in applying to college and the like.
So I thought we would kick it off by asking a few questions that we collected before this meeting. And then when at the end, if you are here and you're a parent or caregiver and you want to ask some questions, please we'll call on you. But maybe we can just go through the college reps right now, and if you can try to keep your answers tight because of time, we want to get through everything. I think if the first thing is, what do you recommend parents look for when they are when they're starting this college search for a student with learning differences, and sort of what questions should parents ask of schools to know that those schools are serious about giving that support? So I guess in order of who joined, I'll start with the University of Iowa. We can mix it up, but James.
Yeah, and I think, for what you're looking for, I think in this, choosing this college or university, I think it's always like the academic fit, the type of resources, the type of, um, any type of opportunities that help, like classroom sizes, big schools, small schools. I know that end. I think the campus location is always important, the cost. I think those are kind of common thing, but also just like the campus culture, the student life. I think that can matter as well in understanding what, the type of needs the students want of just accommodating them of the size itself. But overall, what type of academic support they would be receiving? Is it more personable, building relationship with the professors? I think those are all important things. And, any of like the type of support service centers, what are their mental health resources, tutoring centers, academic advising, the disability service centers, like all those are always kind of great things to learn about and what type of accommodations each school offers. So,
Thanks. Brittany.
So I would agree with a lot of that. I would also say accessibility on campus. We're 2 hours away from Arizona State University, where they have multiple campuses spread throughout the city, whereas the U of A is a singular campus that is a mile by a mile long. So our students are able to get around campus within about 10 to 15 minutes. So seeing how easy it is for a student to get around campus, how services integrate into the rest of campus. Are students able to do the Honors College if they're part of the Disability Resource Center? Are they able to join any clubs? Are they able to be a part of research? And what are, how, trying to think of what to say, how do the professors interact with those students? So getting a feel for the type of environment and the type of opportunities that are available. And then a level of culture. So looking at who are the people on campus, what kind of diversity is on campus, and will you be able to find your people regardless? So do you want to join Greek life? Is Greek life required? Do you want to join a cultural center? Are there cultural centers? Are you able to join the things that you want to be a part of without having to be feeling like you're othered?
Thanks. Lydia, do you want to add something? You're muted.
Yeah, I really like what Brittany said about those like cohesive supports. I think that's really important when you are looking at colleges and comparing different options. Are those wraparound services and supports for things like housing, for things like mental health, for things like reading and writing um, supports there as well, accessible on your campus. I think one of the conversations that I have with my students and families is about when they're looking at services, looking at the role that the student is going to have to play. Are you a student that is maybe not used to self-advocating as much, or taking that proactive step in showing up for supports and services now? That might change and might need to change for you to be successful and access supports in college, depending on what kind of and level of support that you are looking at. So it's really about understanding what support you receive now and what that might also look like in college.
Great. There's, one of the things that we're sort of, talk about is some of you guys are large schools, Beacon's very small. Is there a rule of thumb about large or small? I don't know, any of the three, you talk
Answer
about
that
the small part.
one.
You can take that first and then we'll go the other direction.
Yeah, I think that there's so many great advantages to being at a large university, and you can 100% make that feel small for you. I think it's a lot about personality fit. I think there's advantages to a small college and a small campus culture. I have a sister that goes to a big state school. She has ADHD. And she has found a way to navigate that and be successful. I also had another sister who that would not have worked for. And so I don't think that it's necessarily one way or the other. It really just depends on you and the environment that you are most successful in.
Great. Brittany, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so definitely coming from a major university, our undergrad is 42,000 students. One of the things that I talk a lot about the campus culture is, does it feel like a 42,000 person university? And I'm an alum of the U of A. I attended there. I had ADHD and went through college undiagnosed. So it never felt like a 42,000 person undergrad to me or to our current students, because the SALT Center is going to be a home base for them, but also we talk about how you're going to be a part of the college that you're a part of. So say you're a psychology student, you're going to be in the College of Science, who they do their own events. They have kickoffs with their dean. They do all sorts of stuff. Then you get into your actual psychology department, and for us, we've got really involved advisors who do like ice cream with the advisors, and they do a haunted house in their department every year. And then we've got a bachelor's of science and a bachelor's of arts in psychology. So there's a lot of ways that, especially for the University of Arizona, you aren't in a massive university. You are in a college with a major, with the people who you see pretty constantly, who are there to get you involved. The advantages of a large university, the reason most students who come to University of Arizona look at the opportunities. We have alumni across the country. We have a ton of different research opportunities. I mentioned we do a lot with space, so we've do a lot with NASA, and so kind of trying to balance what are the opportunities you're looking at for a college versus that one-on-one smaller college where you're going to see the same people every single day. So that's most of the students who come to the University of Arizona are looking for those opportunities to be involved in things. And so what is the college that you're looking at? What can you get involved in?
Jordan, do you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, Brittany and Lydia did hit it right on the spot. I think it's pretty fair to say that it all comes down to the individual and what they need and what they want, and that feel of just the accommodation and that feel of just not being a number, but actually being a student, being able to have the resources available to them. Every institution is going to have their strengths and in their own ways, in their own unique ways. So I think it's just kind of what that student's looking for of wanting to be part of more of a smaller community, tight-knit community campus, or more of a larger community, but also a lot of options and networking and meeting more people from all over, which I feel like you can find on either small or big. But in the end, it's going to come down to the student and what their majors are too. And if it's the right academic fit, or if they plan on maybe changing their major. There are more options on the bigger school side than there are on the smaller size. But either way, if you know, you know, and that's your school that you want to attend. So it comes down to, yes, the individual wanting that, but of course, each institution, small or big, is going to have their strengths. It's just kind of having that student navigate through that journey of deciding if this is the right fit for them and how smaller the classroom sizes they may need in order to grasp that more of that attention to help meet any of their challenges that they may need. So, with the bigger schools, obviously they may have larger classrooms. I already mentioned kind of ours was, you have a big school, but it's manageable to get around, and our classroom sizes are about 30 students or less with 80% of them. So if you're looking for kind of a medium size, that's Iowa. We're a little over 23,000 in undergrad, not as big as Arizona, but it's just up to the individual and the student of making sure it's the right fit.
So I want to ask you guys one more question, then I want to bring Lori also into the discussion. Um, is it a lot of people wonder, should we disclose if Beacon notwithstanding, should we disclose that we have accommodations, a 504 IEP before we find out whether we've gotten accepted? Will that hurt our chances? When do you do that in the process, and does it affect you? And also, what if you are applying, but you are in the process of recognizing that you need accommodations and you don't yet have a 504 plan or IEP, and so you need to explain some things, or you want to, what do you disclose when, and what should that conversation be? Who wants to jump in now?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick on this one. I think, for us, it's on our end, reading applications, it is totally up to the student to disclose that information, understanding their privacy of wanting to share, excuse me, wanting to share the challenges they may have. I think the other part too is that for us admissions counselors, we're being mindful of understanding the support system through high schools, and every high school has different support system, different states do as well. But for us, it's up to the student on what they want to share in that point. So we're kind of shifting it back to the student on that. So I feel like in the end, when students go through this process and they get reviewed, if there's something where we see a, freshman, sophomore year, but then it didn't go very well, but then the trajectory has gone up. We're going to wonder maybe what happened during that freshman, sophomore year. Is there something that you want to share with us? And they can always share that information and the additional information in the Common App, or they can share it through a letter of recommendation, through a professor, or any of that. So it's really up to the student when they want to disclose it, if they want to disclose it. Because I think on our end, when I do review applications, and sometimes you do see students that have the struggle and they don't mention anything, then I'm assuming that everything is just all there for me to see. So some of the stuff I can't tell what is happening with the student if they don't share the information with me. And there's a variety of different ways students can share that if they're comfortable. But also on our end, we respect, students' privacy as well. So I've had a student that had dyslexia and was going through it, and I didn't know. And because she eventually shared it with me, I understood the application process, I understood them. And then there's other ways for us to navigate to help that student become admissible or go through another program to be admissible as well. So I think it's helpful. I think it's just up to the student of when they want to share it. If they don't have the plan or IEP or in high school, it's not a big deal to us. It's perfectly okay because we have our Student Disability Service Center that's going to help them walk through the process of each step that they need to take to help accommodate them when they come to the university. So,
Great. Thanks. Lydia?
Yeah, so Beacon is a little bit different because all of our students are required to submit documentation of a learning disability as part of our admissions process. But about 30% of our students are actually transfer students from somewhere else. And one thing that typically pops up with my transfer students when I talk to them about why that they're transferring and looking for more support generally tends to be either they did not disclose and really didn't receive the support that they needed, or they didn't realize that the support wasn't as integrative as they had maybe been used to in high school, and so had some academic challenges then in college that they maybe did not expect. So 100% it is it is the onus is on you and on what you want to share during the admissions process. We certainly accept a wide variety of different documentation for our students, knowing that there is a wide variety of different kinds of services our students may receive. But the goal is for you to be successful on a campus, and disclosing can help you find the right path and find the right supports and services for you.
Brittany, do you want to add something?
Yes, definitely. So for us, it's kind of the same. It's up to a student to decide when they want to disclose. Putting it down on an application or as part of like a personal essay for the University of Arizona is never going to be a disadvantage for you. When we're looking at students, we're really looking at students holistically. So primarily looking at why a student might succeed at the University of Arizona. So if a student talks about their learning difference, odds are it's because they're going to talk about the SALT Center in their essay. So just being able to talk about how they know they're going to be successful regardless of the things that they face. That being said, students don't have to. I tell students it's entirely up to them. So they can talk about being and self-identify, or they cannot mention it to anybody. One of the big things I always say that at least once you are on campus, knowing what you need and being able to communicate that to like your advisor. So I know for some students, they don't want to talk about how they're on an ADHD medication, but they know that their ADHD medication wears off at 4 p.m. So talking to their advisor and be like, I really can't take classes after 4 because, I won't be able to be as invested. Or a student who knows that they're not going to be able to get up at 8 to be at an 8 a.m. class, being like, what can we do to get things in the afternoon? Because maybe their time release medication doesn't work until the afternoon. So being able to, if you choose not to identify to anybody or to your advisor, to professors, at least knowing the things that may impact you as far as your learning difference and being able to communicate that to the people who are going to be extra important to you on campus, like your advisors.
Super helpful. Thanks, guys. Laura, I want to bring you in now. I know you have a bit of a formal presentation, but I'm hoping you can also just...
I can be fluid,
Yeah.
whatever works for you all. My presentation is very, very short, but however it's helpful to you guys, it's great.
Let's keep the conversation going. And when we're done with questions, if we don't have more, we can do the presentation. But I wanted to ask you sort of when you start with what are, based on sort of hearing the feedback so far that we've gotten from the college advisors, what would you add in terms of what to look for and also, in terms of big, small, or anything else? And also, the when to disclose, right?
So let's start with the last question because I can remember that first. How's that? So first of all, I think your panel has, provided so much great information for families. So, I can be additive, but I agree with everything they've said. So when to disclose or not to disclose. I think the key thing here is whether or not there is a discrepancy in the transcript, much like Jordan said. So if there is no discrepancy, if all the grades are seamless, then there probably is not a need to disclose. But what if there's no foreign language on the transcript, for example? An admissions counselor is going to want to know, why is that missing? Why is that not there? That would be something that you do want to disclose and you would want to talk about. If you have a math disability and your math level is not quite up to the other level of your humanities courses, you might want to describe that as well. But like Jordan said, I really suggest that you put that information in the additional information section of the Common App, because the main personal statement essay on the Common App is where we want to hear the student's voice. We want to know what matters to them. We want to know their values. We want to know their story, and their story may not be that they have learning differences. They're neurodiverse. There are other things about them, and so there is a place for that. There's a place to explain it. Admissions folks tell me if I'm wrong, they want to know the whole story. They want the whole thing to sort of to make sense. And so that's how I would approach whether or not to disclose a discrepancy. No need to if there's no questions to answer, but certainly do so if you need to sort of thread the needle and thread the whole story. What were the other questions, Laura?
That's great. Yeah, that's
Sorry.
super helpful. No, the first question was, what do you look for? And I think they've touched on this, but also, what are the questions that parents, the number, like 3 questions that parents should ask if they have kids? And obviously there's lots of different, situations, but that you would ask.
Okay, so I think one of the first things that parents need to do is with their kids visit colleges. And when you visit, you're visiting the campus and looking for all of the campus culture things that the experts have mentioned. You want to look for all of that. And in addition, you want to literally see and feel and touch what the learning services are and what the disability services are. So I don't know if everybody knows sort of the difference. All students at most colleges have some sort of learning support available to them. That is for the entire college population. That could be a writing center, like Jordan said. It could be peer tutors, professional tutors, all sorts of things like that. And there is usually a place on campus for academic support for all students. And students who have learning differences can avail themselves of those services. In addition, there is something called the Office of Accessibility or the Office of Disability Services. It's all called different things. And that is the place where the students, once matriculated, discloses that they have a learning difference and that they are going to apply for accommodations to help them access their education. They are going to ask for reasonable accommodations. It's under the ADA law. It's a different law from high school. And that is where they are going to ask for their accommodations. So I think it's real important that families set up a visit with disability services. I think they also should look at the other academic support and see what it's like and see if it looks comfortable, friendly, welcoming. Is there enough tutoring? Are there limits to the number of, tutoring sessions you can have a week? Are you comfortable with peer tutors? Are you comfortable only with professional tutors? Think about all that, but set up a visit at the Disability Services Office. Do not bring your psychoeducational testing, but do come prepared, because they're not going to look at it. Do come prepared knowing what your student needs, what accommodations your student might need to be successful in college. Come prepared with that, because there is no good school or bad school for students with accommodations. It is all about what is right for the individual student. And some schools can accommodate students who need 100% extended time. Some schools will not do that. Some schools will have private rooms for testing for students who need really distraction-reduced testing, but they might only have 3 of those rooms on campus, and they might get filled up really, really quickly. Or the distraction-reduced testing might take place in a room with 12 cubicles. Is that okay for your student? So you need to sit down with the folks in disability services. You need to read their body language. When you express what accommodations your student needs, you need to see how they respond to the kinds of things that you're saying. Are they warm and welcoming and excited to help? Or can you just tell that they are so burdened that there are so few people in disability services compared to the student population that needs to be served, and they are just overwhelmed? You need to see this. You need to walk around the office and make sure the folks are friendly. You need to ask about foreign language if your student needs a foreign language waiver or substitution. You need to understand, A, what is the policy for the college for admission to the college in terms of what they take in high school? Have you satisfied those requirements? And B, what are the requirements to graduate from the University of Iowa or from Arizona or from Beacon? Can your student fill all the requirements? for those kinds of things. So those are some of the kinds of questions that you might want to ask. You might want to ask if your student has ADHD, do they have a separate academic coaching program for someone? Because as someone said, there is no case manager that follows you when you're in college. You are on your own to disclose, you are on your own to self-advocate. Disability services offices don't want to hear from mom and dad. They don't want to hear from mom and dad. This is the time for mom and dad to step back now during high school so our students can be prepared for college. Students need to step up to the plate academically and socially. They need to do the problem solving. And so it's also, this meeting is a great opportunity for your student to self-advocate. Talk about what's difficult for them in learning. Talk about what challenges they have and what might be helpful. And the other piece to just make sure you all understand is it is a different law in college that supports students who need accommodations. You do not need an IEP or a 504 in high school to receive accommodations in college. Colleges don't care about your IEP or your 504. They care about your updated neuropsychological testing that includes actual diagnoses and includes actual suggestions for accommodations for the student. Did that answer?
It's super helpful, lots of information. I want in a minute to open it up to parents and caregivers who are on here to ask some questions. I have a couple more, but I want to step back. But before we do that, I just wanted to give Lydia, Brittany, and Jordan a chance to respond or add anything off of what Lori just said.
No, I think what Lori shared is extremely helpful. Really, the campus visit is so important. Can your student see themselves on that campus interacting with the supports, whether those are a disability resource office, whether those are more academic-based services and supports. If your student feels connected and comfortable with those professionals, it really does help them be more successful in college, as well as asking questions about what those resources actually look like, what is required of your student to access those services, how often are those services provided. This is also your students' opportunity to be more familiar with the services that they receive now, and practice some of those skills, because Lori is correct. Roles very much do change in college, and our supports are more integrative than most, but we are still working with the student, and the student is accessing our supports and services. Our student still has to show up for supports and services, and in families, while we love and support them as well, that is not their role in college. So I love what you said, Lori. I think that's super helpful for students and families here. I hear it all the time from campus visitors. I hear it in student interviews. We want to hear from students. We want students to form those relationships because we want them to be successful on a college campus and to be successful post-college.
Can
I want to
Can I interject here for 1 second?
Yeah, I was going to say, Ms. Heald.
I don't want to lose my train of thought. This is Kate Heald. I just want to say
Yes.
one thing. We have a lot of students at BCC that go to other countries to study. So this is something that's really important. Other countries don't have the same disability laws that the US does. So that's something you can either check with me. We have contacts with reps all over the world, but like even wheelchairs, they don't necessarily, a lot of the schools in England are so old, they don't have the accommodations that they have in the US. So if anybody is interested in learning more about disability services in other countries, they can follow up with me. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Heald, please jump in if you have other things that pop up that we want to hear from you. I know, okay. Cheryl, I know you had a question. Oh, sorry, Brittany, go ahead. Yes, and then Jordan, if you
Sorry,
want.
I just wanted to throw
Yes.
out there. So I'm not 100% sure about the Disability Resource Center at the U of A, who handles all accommodations. But for the SALT Center, we will ask for documentation of a student's learning difference. But we'll take anything IEP, 504, psychoeducational testing. If your school doesn't utilize those, we take learning plans or research plans. And we also accept students who have never been diagnosed. So if a student knows that they have a learning difference, but they've never been able to get a formal diagnosis, we will still accept them. So just, I know we're talking about a little bit about the documentation. We don't require new testing. We just want something ideally from high school. And we'll accept whatever the student has, whether they're diagnosed or never been diagnosed.
Jordan, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, just real quickly, I mean, I won't go too far. Lori said it, everybody's saying it really well and around the top of the head. I think just at the University of Iowa, I think, we had the Student Disability Service Center. There is a process on that and how to accommodate students to let them feel comfortable, uh, confident, grow as individuals. And so when students do go get admitted and they are going through that process, we always recommend to go as early as possible in the beginning of the semester, so that way no one, the student's not digging themselves a hole. So go as early as possible in the semester, meet with somebody in our SDS, and then fill out the application, provide documentation of the unique challenges or disability from the appropriate professional, and then you meet with one-on-one with Access consultant that was able to kind of help guide you through it. And then from there, once everything is processed, there's our LOA, our letter of accommodations, that it's a collaborated effort, a team effort with the professor, our Student Disability Service Center, and then if a student ever is not getting the full accommodation or having questions, they have the Access consultant to always go back to. So they're never, any student is going through this process is never alone. Our process as a whole is to make sure students are getting the same education, same feel, same accommodation as everybody else. Is just a little extra more attention based off of their challenges. So, but other than that, I think that's probably good enough to say right there. So,
Cheryl, you had a question.
Yeah, so I had a question that goes along with the whole foreign language discussion. In the state of Maryland, students can graduate with either 2 credits of foreign language, or they can graduate with 2 credits of advanced technology. For students that are graduating without the foreign language, but are graduating with the advanced technology, how do the colleges look at that?
Can I take a crack at that?
Sure.
So it's really case by case, college by college. I will literally call every single college that a student is considering. Parents can do the same thing and explain the situation. And in many, many cases, colleges will say, if your student satisfied the requirements of your high school and earned the diploma, we're fine with that. Other colleges are much more rigid and will not accept that. And so we advise our students not to apply to those colleges. Some colleges will accept American Sign Language as an option instead. So it's case by case. It depends on the college, and you have to ask and be informed. And one of the things I also suggest is for parents, read the website very closely before you go on those college visits. It's not always easy to find what the academic support is, what the disability services are, and all the rest. But if you can get into the nuts and bolts of that, you will have a much more effective visit. Your questions will be pointed, you will understand what you're looking for, and it will help you to determine if this particular college can support your student. So Cheryl, I don't mean, I went a little bit off topic there, but I hope that's helpful. And then likewise, you have to know what it is coming out of college, what you have to.
I was just wondering, because I work with students all the time, and we advise students one way or another because we know their strengths and their areas of difficulties.
And it usually depends on the selectiveness of the college, I find. Whether or
So
not
Miss Field is answering. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to
I'm
say that
sorry.
I can speak to
Go
the
ahead.
foreign language requirement. That's not something that we require of our students for admission, nor is that something that we require of our college students to receive their degree. Like Lori said, we are one of those colleges that as long as you are satisfying your state's requirements to receive a standard diploma, that you are eligible for the admissions process. It is a question that we do get often, as well as questions about specific math requirements and English requirements. So I love those kinds of questions. I want to make sure that students and their families feel confident about the application process and what we require. So I also second what she said about reaching out and getting answers about those questions.
And students can send the email and ask their admissions counselor. Admissions counselors love that.
Miss Heald, can you put the response that you put in the chat? Can you say that out loud, and then I'd love to get a response from the
Admissions
school, and
officers.
also I'm curious, you mentioned A versus B, but what about B versus C? So
Okay, so the question is, do admissions counselors recommend that students take more rigorous courses, even if it means a lower grade, or is the GPA the most important thing to prioritize? No, the transcript is the most important thing to prioritize, and colleges are analyzing not only your grades, but the courses that you took. So if a student has a 4.0, and every class that they took is on level, but they have a 4.0, they're going to question why a student with a 4.0 with all A's wouldn't take APs, IBs, honors classes, right? So they want students to challenge themselves to the best of their ability. Meaning, if I'm a student that's really strong in math, I should be trying to take a higher level math course. Okay. Or if I'm a really good writer, I should be taking, maybe AP and lit or something to that effect. So yes, a B in an AP or a higher level course, they would rather see that than an A in an on level course because they want to know that they're, ready for college. And a C, again, it just depends on the college they're applying to. So some schools are fine with C's. University of Maryland doesn't like to see any C's. They've gotten very selective. So it really depends on the school. But the admissions reps on here can address this as well.
Susan C is asking, I understand Lori's point about visiting and looking and feeling. I'm glad you asked this, Susan. But if you can't visit every school, is there a way to discern the level type integration of support from afar? College Guides book, what are the best College Guides book websites? Also, if the support can't be found in the school, how can the student look for it outside of the school, tutors, academic executive function coach, etc.? How common is that when you get to the college level, I think is what she's asking.
So I totally understand that it is not economically feasible to visit a gajillion colleges and families don't have time. I get that completely. If you can't visit, that's fine. Set up a Zoom meeting with someone in disability services. Talk to them, have that conversation. You will learn so much from that. Phone conversation, all of those kinds of things, that is absolutely fine. You can only do what you can do, and you can still get lots of information and dig into that website as well. And you might even want to ask if there are any students who are currently being served by disability services who would be willing to talk to your student, to your own student, to find out information. A lot of times you wouldn't believe how much students love to be ambassadors in all sorts of ways, especially if they're successful, and who doesn't want to share their successes. So you can do it in all sorts of ways, and it is not reasonable to expect that any family visits every single college.
Thank you. This is again, I'm going to flip back to the college reps here. How recent does neurological testing need to be? Do any of you guys want to take that?
For me, I'm not 100% sure. I think any updated information is always helpful. I think that's kind of, depending on when's the last document that or the individual saw from the appropriate professional. I always feel like any updated information is going to help them out and make it more of a faster process. So that's what I know. So.
I can speak to this one on our end as well. So for admissions purposes, well, we do like documentation within the last 3 years. That's not a hard and fast rule, especially because testing for families can be cost prohibitive and it can be laborious to get. But our like learning specialist team always says that if we our students need additional accommodations and services beyond kind of what we have built in. And the most common for our students are recording in the classroom and flexible attendance. They require something that is more updated.
I think I touched on this briefly before. I can't speak specifically on accommodations because those go through the Disability Resource Center. But for the SALT Center, we prefer documentation that is ideally from junior and senior year or anytime from high school. We don't require the neurological testing if you have like additional documentation. We also don't require documentation if you don't have it. So if a student comes in and doesn't have any documentation from high school, they would just give us an additional personal statement talking about their learning difference, the challenges they face to learning, and any current supports they're using. So that's for the SALT Center.
And can I just add, for most disability services, the SALT Center not being one, you're this amazing academic support center, but for disability services, by and large, they want the adult scales for the students. They want testing that is up to date for students who are 16 and older. So testing that you have from kindergarten is not really relevant. They prefer that. And a lot of times they'll give you some leeway. They'll give you a semester or two of time to get it updated if you don't have it updated at this point. It is so expensive. Sometimes you can go to a graduate school and they will have graduate students who are, learning how to be whatever. And sometimes you can get a much, much, much discounted test.
Great. Okay, I have two questions in the queue here, and then I have a question. So Jessica Heller says, I have a young adult that has mobility issues and taking a normal college tour is not going to be possible. We've talked about not being able to visit, but is there a reasonable request to ask for an alternative type of tour, she asks, and if so, what department would you ask? Brittany or Jordan, do you want to?
Yep, I'll go in very quick. Yeah, it's pretty, with that situation, you would register for your campus tour like any other first year student. And then from there, you would just want to call our admissions visitors center and let them know about what type of accommodations you may need. And from there, the discussion, the conversations will happen to see if that's something that we'll kind of go and talk about what the campus tour is like, what is the best route? Where do you want to go see? If it's something where the student just wants to see certain areas and make it easier for the accommodations, I'm sure we have a student ambassador that will help accommodate in their needs on the process of the campus tour. So you would just reach out to the admissions office, talk about your campus tour, and then we'll help accommodate on that end.
Okay, I'm gonna if there's nothing super to add, I'm gonna keep the questions going because we're starting to get more questions. Yes, Brittany.
So the University of Arizona offers, if you can't come out to campus, we have a virtual tour on our website where you can actually click through basically the entirety of campus, kind of Google Map Street View style. Also, if you contact our admissions department, I know that they do tours, like one-on-one tours, utilizing golf carts around campus. So if you have mobility issues, you can make it to campus. They can also do a one-on-one tour that way.
Here's a tough question. I don't know who wants to track this one, but have there been any recent changes in the laws, regulations for disabilities with the current administration? And I would maybe add to that, not just changes in law, but changes in application that is affecting your schools. Nope. Okay, great. That's easy then. Are tests done by school systems for IEPs and 504s? I think someone talked about this, but are those well respected by schools or do they need to be a fuller neuropsychological test? Who wants to grab that?
The SALT Center at the U of A will take 504s and IEPs. And I believe our Disability Resource Center also accepts 504s and IEPs as well.
Yeah, we do as well, with or without kind of embedded testing.
Yeah, same with or without. I think the main thing is still going through that proper process for the student disability service center, meeting the individual, providing documentation from the appropriate professional, meeting one-on-one with the access counselor. So even if you have it or not, you're still going to have to go through that process because we want to make sure that we are accommodating you to the needs.
So I have a question on financials. If you are looking for financial aid and you have accommodations, does that have any impact on it? And again, does disclosure have any impact on aid in any way? You guys are taking it. Okay, Lori, do you want to?
The only thing I would add that we sometimes come across is some of our students need a reduced course load. They need to take fewer courses per semester so that they can handle the work. They can make the transition to college, all the rest. And so sometimes what comes up is that you need that to be sort of accommodated so that you still can be considered a full-time student and can still get your financial aid and things of that nature.
Great.
I would add for Beacon specifically, we work with the Department of Vocational Rehab across the country, and our students receive some funding that way to help with the cost of attendance.
That's great.
Another question I have is, if you are not a U.S. citizen, is there any difference in terms of accommodations? A little bit first gen, also for families that are navigating the college system. Is there anything specific that would be useful for folks who don't have as much experience with the U.S. College system for their children, but also navigating on top of that the learning differences they might have?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say for students who are coming from outside the U.S., we do have the University of Arizona has an international department that helps connect students, get them connected with the right resources. And I've definitely had representatives or recruiters from our international team reach out to the SALT Center to help those students get applying or apply for the SALT Center and get our services and get involved. So I always say first step is our international team.
And if you're like a U.S. resident but not a citizen, for example, also, does that change anything as you're applying in terms of the learning differences and all of the requirements?
I don't think so. I've never had that question, but I don't think so.
Just asking.
Yeah, I would say there's not much changes. I mean, there's the accommodations for all students. I think it's just making sure they go through the proper process and providing the right documentation that we need from them. If they don't have it, then, we'll work with them to try to figure out what type of accommodation they may need. But I think it's just more of showing, I guess, more of going through the steps for international wise and resources. I mean, there's a variety of different opportunities for them with student organizations or student support organizations or multicultural international student support and engagement. So there's tons of stuff like that available for international students and support. And then, of course, for the individuals with maybe any type of disability that just needs to be brought to our attention to help accommodate them.
Yeah.
We're getting a little short on time, so I'm gonna ask this last question, and then I guess if Ms. Heald, if you want to do a last round, or you guys want to give a follow last comments. But Jennifer asks, what would you suggest we do to help prepare our students for the transition to college?
That's an awesome question. That's super, super, super important. I think, as I mentioned before, step back as parents and let your students navigate things independently, academically, and socially. I mean, you can model behavior for them and all the rest, but it's sort of like we're doing this. you as a parent is stepping down and the student is stepping up, and they have to practice. They have to be independent to be successful in college, to manage these things, and all the rest. So, think about, can they turn in their assignments on time? Can they manage their medications? Can they order their medications if they're old enough to be allowed to do it? Can they manage money? How do they handle screen time? How about sleep? How do they take direction? How do they communicate with peers? How do they communicate with adults? Can they motivate themselves? Can they bounce back from setbacks? I mean, these are the kinds of things that we want them to be able to do without any prompting. We want this to come from them. I have a few handouts that I prepared, and one of them is kind of about this. And so maybe it will help you a little bit, but really it's so hard to do. We don't want our students to fail. We don't want them to get skin knees and all of the rest. They have to start to do these things on their own. So just help them, guide them, let them know they can do it, help guide them to resources at high school, those kinds of things. Suggest that they talk to their teachers at high school when they don't understand something, set up appointments. All of those things really, really, really matter. We want them to be successful. We want this to be a successful experience.
Lydia, do you want to add some closing remarks?
Yeah, no, I think that your role as parents definitely shifts during this time. And so this is the time where you still have them to coach them and help them practice. And then as there are setbacks, as there are challenges in self-advocating or communicating, helping them show that we can bounce back from that. The more that you can at home model what they are going to experience in college in terms of even like the independent living skills and doing their own laundry and working independently on homework, is going to help them successfully transition to a campus, because it's going to help them have less anxiety because they have practiced some of those things and they know what to expect.
Great. Jordan, do you want to?
Yep, I know we're running out of time, so I'll keep it short. I think the big thing out of all this is just the communication as a whole as you go through this and process of the transition and making sure you're understanding what is being offered, the type of resources that you have available for you. It's all right there for you. So I always think like communicate. Feel free to ask us any questions on anything to help navigate you through this process or your academic journey. I think it's so important that if you don't ask questions, you're not going to know, then you're going to fall behind and then it starts digging a little hole. So I think it's always important communicate, but also engage and get out there and enjoy your college experience, but also network. And it's okay to be outside your comfort zone. So that's how you grow. So.
Okay. Brittany.
We talk a lot about students preparing to come into the Salt Center, at least about, and Lydia mentioned this, know how to do your own laundry, know how to learn how to cook a few things, and budgeting. That's a big one for our students. We also talk to our students about really knowing what their learning difference is. We have students who their whole lives, their parents have handled their IEPs, whatever the conversations that have to do with their learning difference, and they come to college and they're not able to actually say what it is they struggle with. They don't know what their diagnoses are. They don't know what supports they're currently using, putting them at a huge disadvantage. So we don't tell students like you have to be able to tell us your diagnoses word for word, but you have to understand a little bit what it is that you've struggled with. And so including students, especially in the junior, senior year, including those in the conversations about IEP updates. That's a huge thing a huge benefit you could do for your student.
Ms. Heald, do you want to take us home, or Cheryl?
I sure will. So yes, you can see that I put thank you everybody, and Lori and Brittany, if you could put your emails in here as well, that would be awesome. So again, for those of you who missed it, I am Kate Heald. I am the College and Career Advisor at BCC High School. And the committee reached out to me to organize this. I will be hosting a lot more workshops over the summer, especially for my rising seniors. If you want a copy of this recording, just email me and I can send it to you. If you need any contact information from tonight or any other contact information, I'm going to turn this recording off.